Once again, thanks for tuning in to HuskerChat. I'm Jayson Jorgensen. It's brought to you by Acres Equipment as we talk Husker football with Nebraska football insider Sean Callahan of HuskerOnline. Sean, Nebraska's won 2 in a row. Now 2-2 on the season as you look back to Saturday night, which kind of turned out to be a different game. There was a weather delay and all of that. What was your biggest takeaway for the Huskers in that win?
Well, I just think it was another game that helped establish the identity of what this football team is and what they want to be. I mean, they're going to play great defense at the line of scrimmage. They're going to shut you down on the run. They're going to try to win on third downs and get off the field. But then on offense, they're a body blow team. They're just going to pound it at you and run it downhill. And I think early in that game, they attempted to throw, kind of taking advantage of the numbers they were seeing. But Louisiana Tech brought some pressure and they had trouble with that. So they just said, you know what? We're going to bring in tight ends, an extra offensive lineman, a fullback, and we're just going to pound it right at you. And that produced over 300 rushing yards for Nebraska. They lead the Big Ten right now in rushing offense. They're number one in the nation right now in rushing defense, also yards per carry. So they've got a lot of things they can hang their hat on. Despite the fact they've played a fairly difficult schedule here these first 4 weeks of the season.
One thing that you have to be enthused about is a month in, they found an identity. There's some teams out there that can't say that.
Yeah, and I think they just want to keep it simple. They want to play downhill. They want to play physical. They want to hold on to the football. And I felt like they did those things the first 2 weeks other than hold on to the football. And I think that's the difference between Jeff Sims and Heinrich Haarberg. A lot of the plays and results of the offense look similar. The difference was the turnovers. Heinrich Haarberg has only had one turnover in 2 weeks, and it was on a blindsided sack he took 2 weeks ago. Jeff Sims, as we know, in the offense had 8 turnovers in those first 2 weeks. So they've done a much better job of taking care of the football. And in a lot of ways, the Colorado game was kind of set up to look like what last week's game was going to be. I mean, that was a 7-7 game at halftime, just like the Minnesota game was. But the turnovers kind of let that game get out of whack, and Nebraska's margin for error is just not much. They cannot turn it over and expect to come back because they don't really have the receiver, deep threats and guys that they have and the quarterback play, to come back from a big deficit. So they've kind of figured out who they are, and it will be interesting now against one of the best teams in the country.
How about this passing game? Do you think they're going to have to be creative to try to get some guys free? Because sooner or later, I mean, they're going to continue to see 8 men, maybe 9 guys in the box.
Yeah, Michigan's going to play physical coverage on them. They're going to see if these guys can get off the line and get open. So that will be a challenge because I don't imagine the Wolverines are going to commit much safety help. It's going to be probably lock them up and see if they can beat us. And Michigan's probably feels confident that their defensive backs are going to hold up against Billy Kemp and guys like Alex Bullock and Marcus Washington. The key is what can Nebraska do on first down? Last week, the Huskers, Jayson, ran for 195 yards on first down plays. Now they only threw it for 2 yards on first down. So they were pretty one-dimensional in what they wanted to do. In fact, they ran it, I believe, 22 times on first down, and they only threw it 4 times. So they were very, they didn't sugarcoat what they wanted to do as an offense. Can they do that this week? I mean, that's going to be the challenge. So there's going to be a lot of those 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8s in this game. And are they going to be able to convert some of those against a really, really talented defense? It's probably one of the biggest storylines.
Today on Husker Chat, we're joined by Sean Callahan of HuskerOnline as we preview Nebraska's matchup with Michigan. Sean, I've seen some folks out there complaining a little bit that, this is boring football. But if you look at the statistics, they're scoring at about the same amount they did last year. And to me, if it keeps them in games and it gives them a chance to win, who cares?
Yeah, they're playing a style of football that protects their defense as well and allows them to be fresh and play fast. They huddle. They run it a lot. So the time of possession is going to heavily favor Nebraska in most games if they can get first downs. Then on the flip side, the defense comes out fresher and ideally gives this offense better field position. So I think that's the key. You've got to build something that works for who you are. And this is not an elite Nebraska team by any means. I think we're all just thinking, can they find a way to 6 wins? I mean, that was kind of the goal for a lot of folks to start the year, maybe 7, some thought, but I think that's kind of what you have to look like. How do we get this team to take a step forward and build around what they do well? And Matt Rule and his staff, they're listening and they're looking at things. Matt Rule has said, he goes, we're playing this way, number one, because that's how they've won at Nebraska in the past. But number two, the people that pay my salary, they want us to play this kind of football. They want us to be physical. They want us to run the ball. And, I want to listen to what they want because they're the fans. And they also have the players that can do those things.
What's your read on Michigan? Kind of an interesting first month of the season for them. They have been effective, but not dominating. And it had to be different for them not having Jim Harbaugh there for a pretty big stretch.
Yeah, you look at Michigan, their schedule. I mean, it has to be one of the easiest, if not the easiest, in all Power 5 football. I believe they haven't left Ann Arbor yet. They didn't have Jim Harbaugh for the first 3 weeks, but I mean, UNLV, East Carolina, Bowling Green, then opening the conference play with Rutgers. Come on now. I mean, they have just protected this team with this schedule where, they could kind of figure out who they are and develop their team, without having to really play a football. I mean, they could just kind of play a B minus game and handle most of these opponents, which they did. They played a lot of different players, a lot of different snaps. Blake Corum hardly has had to work this year, and Edwards, the other running back. So this will be interesting. If Nebraska can put some pressure on Michigan and make this game, tough on them early, it will be interesting if they can get in the fourth quarter. But Michigan comes in, as you know, about a 17.5-point favorite. That is the closest point spread they've had by far all year. They were, I believe, 26-point favorites a week ago against an undefeated Rutgers team.
A 2:30 kickoff. I would think the fans will be pretty juiced for this one to help the Huskers out as much as they can to try to upset the Wolverines.
Yeah, they dodged a bullet. I mean, it was going to be an 11 o'clock game, but the Deion Sanders effect wins out again, and we saw why. I mean, the game against Oregon drew 10 million viewers and actually had a higher rating than Notre Dame versus Ohio State. So Fox wants Colorado and Big Noon for obvious reasons, and Michigan, Nebraska to follow. So I think no one's complaining here. I think 2:30 is probably the most preferred kickoff time for everybody because it allows you to get home, allows you to get in the stadium, have a little tailgating, have some fun. So it should be an unbelievable day for college football here in Lincoln.
All right, Nebraska was close before at home trying to knock off the Wolverines. Hopefully they can get it done this weekend.
All right. Hey, thanks, Jason.
You bet. That was Sean Callahan. His thoughts on the Huskers matchup with Michigan coming up this Saturday. This is Husker Chat. We're here every week, and it's brought to you by Acres Equipment. I'm Jayson Jorgensen.